you check the children? Show a little match sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes. That is what
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Welcome, Fright fans! Fuego here, and a review here on the horror show that I'm very excited to be discussing because of the fact that it's one that I have to kind of address from a more tactful manner because of the fact that this is coming from a couple of TikTok personalities, according to Cecil Laird, and I am unaware and uninformed about either of these, girls, and so for that reason, I am not going to come in with an essence of prior fandom, or affiliation when it comes to either, I don't know, like fanaticism, prejudice, whatever, because there's obviously, when it comes to, I don't know, personalities and, peeps of that nature, who are, I notice I'm dancing around the term of influencer, but I don't like that term, but I'm going to look at these two girls as actors and as, in the terms of Chris, filmmaker, as a horror film reviewer, because I don't know jack about either of them. I am just here to talk about their film, House of Eden. And so, yeah, man, overall thoughts, I'm not a big found footage person, and so that probably, negates my initial interest in something of this nature, especially based on the trailers that I had seen. Looked very much like they were going for a weird, we worship at the, at the throne of Blair Witch, and I was one of those people who was well aged enough to know when the Blair Witch initially came out, and just the craze that put together. So this is about a couple girls who are ghost hunters of sorts, and they also have a third wheel, unfortunately, who was this dude, Josh, I think his name was, if I remember correctly. But yeah, so there was a cameraman, and then there's the two on-camera personalities, but then you have Chris, who is a very vigilant and assertive and, dare I say, kind of Karen bitchy kind of producer. But it makes sense because of the fact that after I did some research, that Chris, who is the redhead in this, who is a total babe and also the standout actor of the film as far as a dramatic performance with some of the stuff that she wrote and directed the script, also was a producer on it. Not here to sexualize, even if she's very pretty, but she has the opportunity to really flex some dramatic strength in the back half of this movie, where she gets into more of a tyrant mode, and I really appreciated that. Overall, this just, for me, from not only I could tell within the first to second act, it was a lot of improv, we're being goofy, and some of it was cute. It was what I assumed the Josh character would have used as B-roll, because they're using all these different cameras, and that does add a particularly interesting visual aesthetic. You've got some 8mm, if I remember, 16, whatever it was, but a grain film, handheld sort of bit, and then you also have various different rigs that are being used. Shout out to Rode, because I used them for over a decade for especially stuff at conventions when I'm trying to get good audio in a situation when there's lots of stuff going on around. But it felt like a lot of meanderousness early on. And also, as I round out initial thoughts, which is first impressions, overall thoughts, that's what we'd like to do here at the beginning of these reviews for the horror show. I'm not trying to obliterate either of these women, as far as my thoughts on their dramatic performances in this film or how it stacks up. I'm just coming in, since I have no basis of who they are, and their prowess and their popularity. I'm coming in as a know-nothing, and I'm just rating this as a horror film. I did not like this. It felt very just run-of-the-mill, although trying at a few occasions to really make things a little bit more interesting. I think it's because of the fact that when you become an older reviewer, in a lot of instances, you know, because I'm in my 40s now, you have seen so many damn things that almost everything, unless they are really breaking the box, like when you're working within those constraints and confines of tropes that we have seen, and tropes is not a bad word. Tropes just means, in my estimation, that it's things that we have seen before. It's like a little skeleton that, what are you going to do relatively differently to like fill in those guts of it and make it like a living thing and make it something interesting and, you know, unique. This didn't do enough of that for me. I didn't hate this movie. I just didn't really particularly care for it. And it was more so than anything because of the fact that I didn't vibe on the humor in the first act, which we were like, oh, we're goofy. We're doing these, and then, I mean, the hide and seek bit, like, I don't know, like, when people had to dwell within what would have been dead airwaves, you know, where somebody had to just improv and just be goofy and say funny things because, oh, there's not much happening, but, you know, there was a movement of this, like, that stuff didn't jive with me. I think that maybe some of the longtime fans of these girls, and at least according to Cecil, they're like really big time, maybe they would be more into it. And this is me once again, like I feel like I'm walking on damn eggshells, but yeah, I didn't find the banter funny. I didn't find the interactivity funny. It was when the film shifted into actually when they get to this house and, you know, they're investigating as opposed to going to the graveyard. And that's another thing where, you know, we always segue from like story to, from initial thoughts to story. The story of this movie is, it almost like peeks at things here and there, but doesn't really fully embrace them. And I know that that's because there is something that is hinted at that is fulfilled at the end of the movie, and that's the best thing of the entire movie. That was what I thought was gangster. Everything else felt meandrous and like it didn't really explain itself particularly well. First and foremost, when you have, you know, some peeps who were like, oh, we're just going to drive off into the middle of nowhere. You're like, okay, cool. We're not going to the graveyard where we saw on the GPS and everything like that. You're like, okay, cool. And then she's like, yeah, I don't know where this house is, but I'm totally going to find it. Okay. You're like, oh, yeah, it's going to be over here. Sure. And they go on this walk to the woods, just abandon their vehicle. You know, there are so many, to quote Ryan George, you know, because movie, there are a ton of moments within this that just had me, like, slapping my face. And all of the warning signs, too, and the stupidity of the characters. You know, they finally find said house, which apparently nobody had ever heard of. And it's so funny. She's like, yeah, I read about it on the internet. Chris's character. I read about it on the internet. Nobody's heard about it, right? So we'll be the first to discover it. Yeah, I found out about it on the internet. Anyway, so they get to the house, and it is this, like, colonial, huge, pristine place, and, you know, it doesn't look dusty. It doesn't look unkempt. It doesn't, you know. And of course, Chris is overzealous character because that's how she wrote herself, obviously. You know, it's like, dude, there's no power here. It's insane. This is insane. This is insane. This is insane. She says it over and over and over. It's where you can totally tell that this was ad-libbed. You know, a lot of it was just people like, okay, we have an idea of what we're trying to do in this scene, but we're just gonna kind of go with it. You know, and that's from a director, man. You know. Where you, and from a writer, because she's also the writer, like, yeah, well, I didn't really write specific dialogue. I was just like, hey, guys, you know, let's go into this scene and let's have an idea of what we're going to kind of say, go about it. She's guilty of it herself, man. I mean, and you know, says insane and awesome, like, over and over and over and over. I know people do that in real life, but it was just very off-putting to me. But there's no warning flags about the fact that, oh, there's no power. It must be completely abandoned. You're like, well, something that's out in the middle of nowhere like this would obviously incorporate a generator for power. And so this character is an idiot, obviously, and both of her subjectaries are idiots. So, yeah, the writing's not very good here, guys. From a horror standpoint, you know, guy who's reviewed thousands of films, the horror is not great here. The writing is not great here, unfortunately. But where the writing does amplify itself and get significantly more interesting is where you start to see the cohesive connection with a circle at the very beginning, but it just meanders and takes so long to get to it. It's just more scenes of banter amongst these characters, and they're not very interesting. I mean, it's fine enough when they're, you know, like, easy on the eyes, and both of these ladies are. I mean, it's a good-looking dude too, and, you know, rocking the sambas, just like me, you know. But yeah, dude, I don't know. Performance-wise, I felt like it was a little shaky from two of the three. Chris, the you know, writer-director, as much as I have, you know, given you some crap, girly, you, because you're probably not even going to watch this, but I got to address you specifically. You brought it when you had to, especially in the third act when you were getting, like, full-on tyrant status. As far as effects go, you know, it's very sparse with when we do get some gore, but when we did see it, I don't know what the budget for this film was, because it does look like they made it for like $5, which, you know, back to, you know, Blair Witch Project, or like so many other found footage sort of films. Yeah, it does not look pricey, but it doesn't need to. It's not the aesthetic that, you know, is incorporated with it. When we do get a little bit of gore, you know, it's pretty solid. And we also get one particularly gnarly point near the end with, like, a throat slit and, like, full nudity, and so it also goes for, like, not for the faint of heart in that particular regard. As with, you know, most found footage stuff, no score to speak of because it doesn't have a place within it. I did like the choice of all kinds of different film grades and, you know, aspect ratios and everything dependent upon the camera that was being utilized. However, the way they utilized it at the very end, which is the best scene maybe in the entire movie for me, yeah, I was less into that. So, but yeah, guys, that's my unfiltered thoughts from a horror fan about House on Eden and a longtime reviewer who, you know, doesn't have any predisposition about the creative team and the people who were on camera and behind it that were behind this, you know. And so, yeah, there you go. I extend the grande gracias up in Jaime and Fuego. You can find me on all social media sectors: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTokies, Threadsies, all the dumb stuff. But most importantly is to like, share, subscribe here. Give some thoughts about if you have seen this film. Are you familiar with either of these ladies who are, you know, the main faces that were a part of it? You know, I was more enamored with Chris, obviously. She is the writer and director and a producer on it and everything. She really takes charge and, you know, kind of the impressive performance, but that's not to, you know, knock anybody else in the proceedings or anything. But yeah, guys, let me know in the comments below. Let Cecil, myself, you know, and the entire rest of the team know. But yeah, once again, Fuego, and y'all have been rad status. And until next time, Fright fans, remember, stay scared.